I think the guy in 25D is watching porn on his iPad. Rachel looked up from the tray of drinks she was mixing for first class. Someone complain? Kelly shook her head. No, but he's sitting sideways trying to hide the screen, and he keeps giving me a guilty look when I go past. Want me to check it out? Maybe give it a walk, but he's got that side of the row to himself. Rachel passed out the drinks and then walked slowly down the center aisle in economy. Row 25 was just past the exit doors, and sure enough, the guy in 25D, a middle-aged East Asian man holding an iPad close to his chest, looked up at her as she went past. She had been a flight attendant for nearly 10 years and recognized the nervous, paranoid look immediately. She'd seen it often enough to know. It was either porn or something else he didn't want anyone to see. But unless she caught him in the act or someone complained, it was usually best to leave it alone, especially since there was no one else sitting with him. She found Kelly waiting up front. Well? Probably porn, though I couldn't see the screen. Just keep an eye on him. Maybe he'll get the message and stop. Kelly went back to economy. Rachel looked over first class again. The 6 seats on the 737-700 were occupied with the usual mix of upgraded business travel and purchased vacationers. There were more of the latter since they were coming into San Diego on a Friday night. With nothing to occupy her for the next 5 minutes or so, she played her usual discreet mental game of trying to guess the background of the passengers. The older couple in 1A and 1B were probably coming out for a cruise, likely down to Mexico from the way they were dressed. They were upgrades, obviously Golden Years tourists. The guy in the black shirt in 1C was a purchase. The heavy gold watch and meticulously coiffed hair pointed to money, but he was too casually dressed to be corporate. He probably owned his own business. The woman next to him in the trim suit, pecking away at her laptop, was an upgrade. She looked like a lawyer. The frumpy woman sleeping in 2A, she wasn't sure about. She was a purchase, but showed no other signs of money. Then there was the guy in 2B, who gave Rachel the chills. Sussing him out had been easy. She had known it the moment he came on board. She recognized the bearing. Rachel had grown up a Marine brat, the youngest daughter of a career officer and retired lieutenant general, and knew military when she saw it. This guy had that, and more. He had the eyes, that distant look she had seen so many times in her father and his friends, the mark of someone who had seen things they didn't want to think about, yet couldn't forget. Her father had gone from the Naval Academy straight to Vietnam in 1968, just in time to get trapped in the siege of Khe Sanh. That had been before Rachel was even born, yet she could see Vietnam in her father's eyes, even in his 70s. But her father, retired for years now, had begun to unwind from military life. He hadn't exactly let himself go. Few career Marines did. But he no longer had that taut, hair-trigger manner about him. The guy in 2B did. 2B's hair was too long for active duty, but he was clearly still involved with something. Maybe special ops, but he was a Diamond-class upgrade, which meant a lot of civilian travel. Maybe he was a consultant or contractor now. He wore what looked to be an expensive white dress shirt, crisply starched, and faded jeans. She couldn't tell his exact age. He might have been anywhere from 35 to 55. He wasn't conventionally handsome. His face was too weathered, too uneven. His nose looked like it had been broken at least once, and there was a scar about the length and width of a cigarette on the left side of his face, running from just under his eye to above his ear, cutting his sideburn in half with a strip of pale flesh. A wound of some kind, she figured. Rachel realized she had been staring at him because he looked up at her now. His eyes were dark, framed by heavy, brooding eyebrows, and they bored into her. Rachel's stomach felt light. It was a moment or two before she could force a professional smile onto her face and look away. She ducked back into the service area and tried to catch her breath. For a brief moment, she had felt completely naked. When Rachel composed herself after a minute, she walked back down the aisle to check in with Kelly and Doris, the third FA. 2B had gone back to reading a magazine. On the way down the aisle, 25D looked up at her with the same guilty expression on his face. Rachel gave him a pointed stare, and he dropped his iPad into his lap as she went past.